surrounding World Cup winning captain Lionel Messi to an emphatic start to their title.
In this FIFA World Cup 2026 round of 32 clash at Miami Stadium, United States. One of football's greatest icons returns to the biggest stage, hoping to inspire the defending world champions into the next round.
Hundreds of photographers in a scrum down there.
When the moment is at its biggest, and now Argentina are through to the quarterfinals with one of the most breathtaking comebacks in the history of this competition. The final score read 3-2. The goals that got Argentina there came from Cristian Romero in the 79th minute, Messi himself in the 83rd, and Enzo Fernandez in the 2nd minute of stoppage time. But those numbers alone don't capture the full story of a night that swung between absolute despair and complete euphoria inside Atlanta Stadium, leaving over 70,000 supporters emotionally exhausted by the time referee blew the final whistle. Argentina came into this match carrying momentum of a complicated kind. They had survived an extra-time thriller against Cape Verde in the round of 32, eventually winning 3-2 after an own goal in the 111th minute rescued them from what would have been one of the great upsets. Before that, they had breezed through the group stage with maximum points, Messi already on 7 goals after his iconic brace against Austria that made him the first man to score at 6 different World Cups. The defending champions looked capable of going all the way, but the Cape Verde match had reminded everyone watching that this Argentina side could be vulnerable when the pressure came from unexpected directions. Egypt came into this match carrying a story that deserved its own spotlight regardless of the result. The Pharaohs were making their first round of 16 appearance in 92 years. A staggering piece of history built by head coach Hossam Hassan over a campaign that had produced genuine, organized, high-quality football from start to finish. Mohamed Salah, their captain and soul, arrived in Atlanta at 34 years old, carrying the weight of an entire nation's footballing ambition and making what is almost certainly his final appearance at a World Cup. The emotional stakes for Egypt were as large as anything Argentina brought to the match, and for most of the evening, those stakes produced a performance that genuinely deserved a different outcome. Egypt struck first, and the goal came from a set piece that exposed Argentina's defensive organization at exactly the wrong moment. In the 15th minute, Marwan Atiyah delivered a precise in-swinging cross from the right flank, and Yasser Ibrahim rose completely unchallenged to head powerfully past Argentina goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez. It was a clinical, well-worked goal, and the Egyptian supporters inside Atlanta Stadium, far more numerous than many had expected, erupted in scenes that the players feeding off that energy would not forget quickly. Argentina's response came almost immediately in the form of a penalty, awarded after a challenge on Lautaro Martinez in the box. Lionel Messi stepped up in the 21st minute, and what followed was one of the most painful individual moments of his entire World Cup career. Goalkeeper Mostafa Shobeir had done his homework, anticipating Messi's preferred left-footed direction, and he got down low to his right to push the effort aside. Silence fell over the Argentine end of the stadium before the fans, almost instinctively, broke into their familiar Messi chant, a moment of collective loyalty from supporters who understood that this man had given them too much to be defined by a single missed penalty. But the miss changed the entire shape of the match. Egypt, given the lifeline of surviving Messi's attempt, grew in confidence and began to genuinely dominate passages of the game in a way that frankly surpassed most pre-match expectations. Argentina struggled to create clear chances, their usual combination play between Messi, Lautaro, and the midfield finding little of the fluency that had made them so dangerous in the group stage. Shobeir made 2 more outstanding saves from close range before the hour mark, denying Argentina twice when goals looked certain, and cementing his place as one of the goalkeepers of this tournament. Egypt made the lead bulletproof in the 67th minute through a goal of individual quality. Mostafa Zico, who had already shown glimpses of danger throughout the half, picked up the ball on the edge of Argentina's penalty area and curled an outstanding right-footed finish into the far corner, giving Emiliano Martinez absolutely no chance. 2-0 to Egypt, 23 minutes to play, defending champions facing elimination. The scoreboard looked impossible to overturn, and for a few minutes inside that stadium, the unthinkable felt almost inevitable. What happened next is why football exists. Messi, who had been relatively quiet for most of the match by his own extraordinary standards, just 16 progressive passes and 7 progressive carries across 90 minutes, suddenly found a gear that nobody else on that pitch possessed. In the 79th minute, he collected the ball in a tight area on the right side of Egypt's penalty area, shrugged off a challenge with the kind of balance that defies explanation at 39 years of age, and cut a precise low cross along the 6-yard box. Cristian Romero arrived at full pace from the opposite side and slid it home. 2-1. The comeback was alive. 4 minutes later, in the 83rd minute, it was level, and this time it was Messi himself who provided the finish. A quick Argentine combination in the Egyptian box created half a yard of space, and Messi did what Messi does. He stayed composed in a moment that would have paralyzed most footballers, opened his body, and steered a low finish past Shobeir's right hand into the net. 2-2. Argentina's bench erupted. The stadium shook. Mohamed Salah stood with his hands on his knees 50 yards away, staring at the ground, understanding what had just happened. Egypt weren't finished trying. They pushed back, won a free kick in a dangerous position, and Hassan's side had a genuine chance to snatch back the lead in the dying seconds before the whistle blew for full time. But the momentum had shifted irreversibly, and in the second minute of stoppage time, Argentina completed the most extraordinary turnaround of the tournament. Messi drove into the Egyptian half, drew 3 defenders toward him, and slid a pass through a narrow gap to Enzo Fernandez, who had made a perfectly timed run from deep and kept his composure under enormous pressure to finish cleanly across Shobeir and into the far corner. 3-2 to Argentina. 3-2 in the 92nd minute of a game they had been losing by 2 goals with 10 minutes to play. The scenes that followed were unlike anything Atlanta Stadium had produced this tournament. Argentina's players collapsed in joy and disbelief, embracing each other with the pure emotional release that only comes from knowing you were minutes from elimination. Messi walked slowly toward the corner flag, both hands raised to the crowd, and when the full-time whistle confirmed it was over, the cameras caught him with tears streaming down his face. Not tears of celebration exactly, tears of relief, as he later said in his post-match comments, relief at still being in this tournament, relief at not having his final World Cup story end in Atlanta 2 rounds before it needed to. Egypt coach Hossam Hassan was understandably devastated and made no effort to conceal it, telling reporters in his press conference that he was convinced his team had been treated unfairly and that the outcome did not reflect what happened on the pitch. Statistically, his argument had weight. Egypt had 5 shots on target to Argentina's 7, and Shobeir's performance, which included the penalty save and multiple point-blank stops, was one of the finest individual goalkeeping displays of the entire tournament. On another night, with a different bounce or a slightly different VAR outcome, Egypt were a quarter-final team. Football is sometimes brutally honest and sometimes brutally unfair, and what Hossam Hassan's squad experienced in Atlanta felt considerably more like the latter. For Mohamed Salah personally, this was almost certainly the final act of his World Cup career, and the sight of him walking slowly off the Atlanta Stadium pitch after the final whistle, head down, without even the consolation of having lost to a dominant performance, was one of the tournament's saddest individual images. For Argentina, and for Messi specifically, the story continues. 8 goals in this World Cup now sits next to his name, the most of any player in the tournament, and a record that continues to grow at an age when nobody has any right to expect this level of performance. He leads the Golden Boot race outright. He leads Argentina into the quarterfinals. And he walks out of Atlanta with another chapter of his World Cup legacy written in the exact style that has defined every Messi moment that ever mattered, quiet for too long, then decisive when the margin for error was gone entirely. Argentina faced their next opponent in the quarterfinals with the belief of a side that has already survived the impossible once this tournament. A squad that can be 2 goals down with 10 minutes to play at the round of 16 stage and still find the composure to score 3 times without reply is not a squad that loses its nerve under pressure. That quality, not the individual brilliance of Messi, not the explosive pace of Vinicius or the clinical runs of Lautaro, but the collective refusal to accept that a result is finished until the final whistle genuinely blows, is what makes the defending champions so difficult to eliminate on the biggest stage. Tuesday night in Atlanta was the clearest possible proof of that. If you're following every moment